Hello, I am so happy you are here. I am Lisa, and this is my channel Cross by Floss, where I chat about my love of cross stitch as well as life blabbings. So today's video is going to actually be sort of a Mira May wrap up with some Q&E, as well as I thought that it would be really cool to go back through all of the Mirabilias that I have done for Mira May and Stitch Mania, you know, that kind of thing, because that's when I actually started. My version of Mira May was during what used to be called Stitch Mania, and so I just thought that it would be kind of fun to go through that and see what we have. I do get a lot of questions about how I deal with my Miras and some of the things that encompass that. So I thought that I would go through those questions today and give some answers, or my answers. Now, I'm going to 100% preface this with, this is just the way I do things. Doesn't mean that it's right, doesn't mean that it's wrong. It's just the way that I do things. And and if, you know, certainly I appreciate comments that are, you know, hey, Lise, why are you doing it that way? You know, like, here's an easier way, or I never thought of doing it that way. This totally rocks, you know. So I think that, you know, within our community, we help each other, and I love that. So this is just the way that I do it, and maybe it will help someone, or it will give the opportunity to find better ways of doing things. So the question and answer I'm going to do in the beginning here, and so there will be a lot of chatting. So if you want to grab, you know, something to drink, your craft that you're working on, stitching, sewing, whatever you're doing, then please, you know, that because there will be a lot of chatting and not much of showing anything. So and then I thought what I would do is, I have all of the Mirabilias with the exception of one, and I'll talk about that later, at my feet. And so there are a lot of Mirabilias that I have started in the last 4 years, and these are only the ones that have been done for Mira May, not for, you know, any. I have many other Mirabilias that are in WIP progress, but they weren't started for Mira May. So so those aren't going to be shown, just the ones for that I started in Mira May. All right, so how about we go through the questions now? I love when you guys, you know, when the community has questions and puts comments. I love the comments, and I do read every single comment. I do my best at commenting back, or at the very least give a heart so that you know that I've read that comment. I learned something the other day. When you heart a comment, YouTube then thinks that you have answered that comment. And so I hearted everything because I read it and I liked it. And I went to go back to respond to comments, and they weren't in my comment section. Like, they were still in the comment section, but they weren't in the not responded to comment section, which is how I know, you know, if I've responded or not. And they were all gone. Well, it's because when I didn't know this, but when you heart it, it then, YouTube then says, oh, you've commented, and you've responded to that comment. And so, oh my goodness. So I had to do a little Lisa research and figure it out. So anyways, I do my best at answering and responding to comments. And certainly if there is a question in the comment, I do my very best to make sure that that question has been answered. Sometimes not always timely, and sometimes I miss them. And if that's the case, I do have my email put in the show notes, you know, in there. Send me a message. You can also find me on Instagram. It's crossed_by_floss, and you will find me and message me that way. That's probably the fastest that I will. Email is hit and miss. Anywho, all right, so I thought that I would go through the questions that I have gotten in the last few years asking me how I deal with my Mirabilias. Some are the same questions that I get. Some are brand new that I've just received. So let's get into that. The very first one that I see a lot is, how do I pick my fabric? How do I know what size fabric I am going to use? So there are a couple of things. First off, on every pattern, there will be a stitched area. So this is the area that when you finish your stitches, that is the size it's going to be. So this one in particular is going to be 10.2 by 15.6. That is the area of stitch that you're going to get. Then this is the stitch count. So this here is how many stitches there are to this pattern. So it's 193 wide by 249. Is that a 9? It's hard to read backwards. 249 high. So if you look at it, you know, she's taller, obviously, than she is wide. So from here to here is going to be 193 stitches. From the very top of her head down to the very bottom of here is 290, what did I say? 249 stitches. So that is how you know what your stitch area is going to be and what your stitch count is going to be. I am going to take these numbers and I am going to go to the Yarn Tree calculator. I will put that link below in the show notes. I'm going to put those numbers in there. I'm going to go to that website. I'm going to pull up that calculator, and I am going to put in 100 and, goodness sakes, I already forgot, 163 wide and 249 high. Then there are some other boxes. One is going to be, what size fabric are you using? I use 16 as an example. I'm going to use 16 count Aida. So I'm going to put in 16 in that area. It automatically knows that's going to be Aida. Then I'm going to say that I am, going over 1x. I'm not using linen, so it's not 2/2 or 1/2. It is 2 strands over one square. So I'm going to go over 1 square. And so I leave that number in there because pretty much with Aida, it's going to calculate it. If you put in 32, the calculator's smart enough that it knows that it is linen and it's going to automatically put the 2 in there. If you want it even smaller and you're gonna go over 1, then you're gonna cancel out that 2 and put a 1, and it's fine. But for the 16 count Aida, for this purpose, it's gonna say 1. Then I'm going to say how big my border is. Now there are 2 different, and I don't have it in front of me, it's on my phone obviously, and so I didn't think to look before I started this video, but there are 2 areas before you calculate your stitch size, your fabric size. There are 2 places that ask how much of a border that you want. It is automatically populated at 2 and 2. I am going to, for the first box, I am going to say 3. I'm going to cancel the 2. I'm going to put in a 3. The second box that says 2, I'm going to cancel that out completely and leave it as a 0, which means I now have a area of 3 inches on all sides, top, bottom, left, and right. I am going to have a 3-inch border all the way around my stitching. So then I'm going to calculate, and it is going to give me the area that I am going to need. So for example, the kiss that I did for week 5 of Mira May this past week, its stitch count was, let me see if I remember, it was 125 by 305, I believe was what it was. And so When I put in my calculations, it told me that I was going to need a 14 by 25 piece of fabric. And then that would give me the stitch count, or the area for my design, plus 3 inches on either side. And of course I don't have a 14 by 25 piece, but I had a 17 by 26 piece. So I was like, fantastic, this is gonna fit great. And so now I'm going to have a little bit more border on either side because I've got 3.5 or 3 inches extra. So now that means that instead of a 3-inch border, I'm gonna have a 4.5-inch border on either side. I'm fine with that. So that's kind of how I figure out my fabric. Then when you calculate, that calculator is going to actually show you that your stitch area should be this. It should be this. And if it's not, then there's a calculation error somewhere. Like maybe the numbers got transposed or something like that. So I would just go back through, and that's kind of like my double check to see. So another question, so that's kind of how I figure out, you know, my stitch size or my fabric size. That's what I use, the fabric calculator. I get asked, you know, what size fabric count, why I choose what I choose. I'm an Aida stitcher, and when I first started Mirabilias, I noticed on the back that it will say the model is stitched in 32 count linen. And on this particular pattern, but not every single one of them, it will have an alternate fabric of the 16 count Aida. Not every one of these patterns has that on there. I think the older or the newer ones do, the older ones don't. But I discovered that 32 count linen, 16 count Aida is the equivalent, the equivalent of a 32 count linen. And so I thought, okay, 16 count sounds great. Well, 16 count is great because the beads will fit, you know, you can do the stitches, everything is great. I did notice, and I haven't run into this as an actual problem myself, but if you are using a hand-dyed fabric, there can be shrinkage with that fabric depending on, you know, how many times it's been dyed, how it's been dried, all kinds of different things. And so the holes can get they can shrink a little. And so some 16s might be like a 17, 18 count. Well, there's no such thing as a 17 count, but 18 count, but it could be in the middle of that 16 to 18. Just depending again on the shrinkage. And so if it's shrunk that much to an 18 count, maybe the beads are not going to fit as well. I myself have not run into that as a problem. The hand-dyed fabrics that I currently use for, I would say, a good portion of my Mirabilias and or Noras are Be Stitch Me, color and cotton, or some sort of dyed Witchelt fabric. There have been some other one-offs every once in a while, like I have used fabric by LJ, who is no longer in business, but it didn't seem like those holes shrunk that much. Grace Notes Fabrics is another one. So I think it really depends on whether you've dyed it yourself, you've gotten it from a hand dyer, or you know, so I would just look at that. You can also take a measure stitch gauge like this, and you can actually put it on and see, you know, is it a 14 count? Is it a 16 count? Is it an 18 count? And if you're working on a 14 count, you know, does it actually line up with these to make it a 16? Or is it more looking like it's gonna, you know, match up into the 18? Or there's a combination of the two. you can use that. I utilize a little stitch gauge quite a bit, so that's really cool. Anyways, so that is, I hope that answers how I pick my fabric. Oh, how do I pick my color of fabric? Okay, that's another question I get too. So on the back of the patterns, they will say that it, you know, the model was stitched on whatever color. And so this one is French lace as an example. And there is not only a French lace in the linen, but there's also a French lace in the Aida. That's not always the case. So, you know, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the pattern. I'm going to pull all my flosses, and I am going to then do a floss toss, and I'm going to see, do I want to work, if I don't have that color, if I don't have French lace per se, do I want to use an antique white? Do I want to use a white? Do I want to use a French vanilla? Do I want to use maybe a black? Do I want to use a darker color? So I'm going to take my floss and I'm going to lay them out on the fabrics that I'm thinking of, and one of those is going to grab you. One of those is going to pop off. For the most part, I'm a very neutral kind of girl. I like to see these colors pop off on the neutral fabric. I have seen other Mirabilia stitchers who will do them on some very beautifully colored fabrics that I would never in a million years think to do a Mirabilia or even any stitch on, honestly, and unless it's called for specifically for that. And they're gorgeous. Like, oh my goodness, they're just gorgeous. And so I am now kind of branching out a little bit and picking different fabric colors that are not called for, or even, you know, have like that as a model. Like you would look at this and go, oh yeah, like a you know, French country mocha might not look great with this, but a French linen lace does. Or what's that other one? French cafe, I don't know. Or antique white, something like that. They're gonna look beautiful with this. But maybe somebody else decided to use like this really beautiful navy, and it made this red and the browns and the whites just pop off of the fabric. Again, I think it's really up to you which you would like to see stitched. Most of the time I'm going to pick a neutral because I have a very hard time thinking outside the box. Okay, so that's how I decide my stitch count. Oh, my fabric count. Deciding fabric count. I was asked that too. Why do I choose 16? I sort of answered that a little bit with the, I'm using the equivalent of what the linen size is, so 16 count. There are some patterns that I choose to do on a different count fabric for whatever reason. So in the case of actually the 2 freebies that I am doing or have done, so Guardian Angel I did on a 20 count. I did that because I wanted it to be a smaller pattern. I wasn't going to use the Krynic, and I wasn't using any beads. And so I didn't have any reason to, you know, use a fabric to keep that, to, you know, be bead compatible size-wise, and because I wasn't using Krynic and I was just using straight DMC, it was great. In place of the beads, in some of the areas, I use French knots, and you can do French knots on any count, as far as I know. So that was easy. Mia Mermaid, which is the free pattern that I started for week 3 of Mira May 2023, I decided, because of her stitch count size, I wanted to make her a little bigger, so I went to a 14 count fabric. And I think that the beads are still going to work on her fine. They should lay just fine in the area. I don't think I'm going to have a problem. For Archangel, which was the very first one that I ever started for Mirabilia, Stitch Mania, I put him on an 18 count fabric. And the reason why I did that was because I liked the fabric, and it was the best size and the best choice for that particular pattern that I had in my stash. And I honestly didn't think about beading, and so I'm hoping everything works out. The Krynic goes on it. I started with Krynic. That's how I found out I hated Krynic. And so, yeah. So with very, very few exceptions, I'm going to use the equivalent of the model stitched linen. So, and most of them are done, I think all of them are done on 32 count. And so I'm going to choose a 16 count Ada. So that. I touched on this a little bit, French knots versus beading. You know, I think that that's personal preference. I think, like, I like doing French knots. It took me years and years to actually figure out how to do a correct French knot. And I watched several videos until I found one that, I don't even remember which one it was either. I apologize. I can't even like lead you towards that, but the technique is one that I use, and it works for me. Now, if there are, you know, hundreds of French knots, as in the case of Alice, if you look at that pattern along the border, if you look at it, and after I've talked to a number of people, that symbol is for French knots, and that border goes around the whole entire piece. That's a lot of French knots. Would I use beads in its place, or just strictly cross, you know, just do normal crosses? Yeah. I might put beads on there when I'm done with the pattern, and you know, when I finish it, and I'm gonna do that border last just because I might look at it and go, yeah, I totally want to put some beads on there, because there's beads throughout the rest of the pattern, and regardless, I'm gonna have to put a spacer on for the glass anyways. And yes, I do put glass on all of my stitch pieces for a few reasons. One, dog hair, dog slobber, and I like you know, dust wise and all of that. I put museum quality glass on my pieces, and so anyways, I digress. In Alice, she's got beads throughout her pattern, and so maybe when I'm gonna have to use a spacer anyways, so maybe yes, I will want to put beads around that border, and it will look beautiful. I might say, I don't want to put that many beads on there, and it's going to add to the weight a little bit of the piece. I might just do X's. Who knows? I might, you know, every third one put a bead. I don't know until I get there. But I think it's personal preference. If you are good at French knots, do French knots. If you think that beads, you know, are going to work, then do beads. And if you don't want to do either, just put in crosses. I think that it is totally fine. I think that it's your pattern, right? So you do what you would like. Okay, did I talk about, I didn't, how to kit up. How to kit up. How do I kit up? So what I do is I buy a beautiful pattern and then I look at the back and I see how much, you know, how much DMCs are needed, if it has Caron water lilies, if it has, how many bead packs is it going to need? And for sure, what I am going to do is buy, or if I have them in my stash and they're new skeins, I will get all the DMCs. and I'm going to go to the big box store. I know that a lot of LNSs sell DMC, and unless my big box store does not have that particular color of DMC, I am going to buy pretty much everything at the big box store. So Hobby Lobby, Joann's, Michael's. I am going to go to those craft stores and kit up my DMCs. And again, you know, I in my notes on my phone, if there isn't one at that store that I am at kitting up, I'm going to put it in my notes that I still need that color. And I will also say which pattern, because I've gotten caught a few times and I'm like, what did I need that for? And so I will put the name of the pattern, and then I will put whatever flosses are needed. And the next time I go to an LNS, I will just buy those there, because really I'm only looking at maybe 3, 4, maybe at the very most. And as we know, you know, DMC has had a couple of price hikes, and while I support my LNSs, I buy, you know, a lot through my LNSs. And so in order to save a little bit of money, I'm going to go and kit my DMCs up at Joann's, Michael's, or Hobby Lobby. So so I'm going to look at that. What I'm also going to do is actually I'm going to open up the pattern. So this is another tip. All Mirabilias will have a seal on the pattern, and once you break the seal, you know, technically the pattern's opened, right? And in used status. Well, if you don't want to break the seal, what you can do is the sides don't have seals on them, and so what you can do is just open up the side, open up the little I can't remember, folds. Open up the fold in here and pull out the pattern. Technically, it is an open pattern now. The seal might not be broken, but you have opened the thing. And as you can see, you know, I've opened it so many times, but it is no longer in new status. You can tell that. So if you're selling a pattern on the secondary market, even if your seal's not broken, I think it should be said that, you know, pattern has been opened, because it has. It's not new, pristine, and clean anymore, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the pattern, especially if it needs Care-On Water Lilies, because I want to know how much of an area is using the Care-On Water Lilies. If it only has 20 stitches for a Care-On Water Lily, I'm not buying that Care-On Water Lily. They're $6, you know, depending on where you go, $6, $7, right? For the Care-On Water Lilies. They're beautiful. Some colors are very hard to find as well. So if it's only 20 stitches, I'm going to go online. I'm going to look at the colors that are in that Care-On Water Lily, and I'm going to hope to find a blend, you know, in my DMCs, and make a blend and hope that that works. And, you know, for what I have done, it has, and I'm happy with the results. Again, I think that that's your choice. So that's what I'm going to do when I kit up. Then I'm going to look and I'm going to see, you know, how many packages of beads does it need? Is it necessary for me to buy all of these beads right now? Let's just say in the case of red, she needs 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 packages of just Mill Hill beads, and then 1 package of Mill Hill Crystal Treasures. And treasures are more expensive than the beads. So, you know, do I need to buy all of those at one time? You know, can I get it in a pack? You know, and if you do get them in a pack and they need that many beads, chances are that pack is going to be $30, $40, right? So right there, that's just beads. That's not your DMCs, that's not your Care-On Water Lilies, and that's not your Krynics. So, it can be costly to kit them up. So it depends on how invested I am in this pattern, whether I want to have everything kitted up and I buy everything at once, or I'm going to piecemeal it out, meaning that I will wait for the beads until a couple of months down the road, and then, you know, do just a big order, because I don't have as many patterns that I'm buying, or I haven't bought cross stitch supplies for a while. And so, you know, the amount of money that I would have spent monthly on cross stitch supplies, I've saved basically, and I will buy the beads. If that's the case, then what I will do is I will kit up the fabric and all the DMCs, because that's what you really and truly need to start any Mirabilia. They don't start off with beads, they don't start off with Krynic. You can find an area in the pattern and start with DMC anywhere in your pattern. And so you can make a great start. And that's what I do. I also don't bead until the end. So for me to have the beads right away is not really all that necessary. I would like them, you know, so that I don't have to worry, are these beads discontinued? Are they hard to find? You know, that kind of thing. But for the most part, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my chart. I'm going to definitely get the DMCs. I'm going to find a project bag in my stash of unused project or empty project bags, and I'm going to put the chart and the fabric and the floss into that bag. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to make a working copy. So again, because I've opened my pattern, I take my Happy Tushy over to Staples or Office Max or somewhere that has a self-serve copy machine. And I am going to make a physical copy, working copy of that chart. What I am also going to do is put that chart on an 11 by 17 piece of paper. And I am going to zoom in, make it bigger. I'm going to, instead of it being at 100%, you know, which is normal, I am going to increase the size to maybe 115 or 118, 120 max. Because then sometimes that will get into 3 sheets of paper, and I like to keep it to 2 if I can, and per pattern. Sometimes I just have to go into 3, sometimes 4, depending. But I have old eyes and I like to be able to see, and that, you know, I think that there's some discussion possibly that, you know, making a working copy is against copyright rules. I don't know about that. I have heard several designers say that they allow for a working copy, your working copy, and not to be shared with other people, you know, that kind of thing. And so I feel it's okay to make a working copy, because sometimes I look at these charts and these symbols are very, very small, and you know, they can be hard to see sometimes. And when I can increase the size of my copy, it helps me see. And then what I do is I will highlight the areas that I've worked in. If I highlight the area on my original, on my original copy, and I've made a mistake, I can't fix that except immediately. And sometimes I don't have time to fix it immediately. So I can then take a picture of that area on my phone, or I can go to my personal copy machine and make a copy and redo that area at whatever time I need. There are also some programs called GoodNotes, and is it GoodNotes? And what's the other one? Oh, you guys know which, you know, where you can scan your pattern and it's there, and then you can mark off as your, oh my goodness, what's it called? Y'all know what it is. And if I can remember, I will put that down in my show notes as well. I have not used either one of those. I did get a Kindle for Christmas one year just so that I could use the one program. PC Stitch? No. Oh goodness. Whatever it is. I haven't been able to figure it out yet. And GoodNotes is apparently supported by, I use Apple iPhone and have a iPad. and apparently GoodNotes is easy on those devices. I have not used that either, but what I have done is I have taken pictures of a chart area and I save it to my pictures. And then what I can do is I'm stitching, I can blow that up and then I can actually edit and in that picture, and I can highlight the area on my phone or on my iPad, and I can actually edit, I can save, and then it's there for the next time. So I guess it's kind of the same. It's not really the same because you're really only getting a smallish area of the chart, but it works for me for quite a few of the projects. So anyways, kitting up, fabric, DMC at the very least, and a working copy of the chart are what is needed for me to kit up. Again, sometimes I will kit up even further and I will buy absolutely everything on 123 Stitch. I'm not affiliated in any way, nor do I get any kickbacks, but I buy a lot of things on 123 Stitch, and one of the great things on there is that when you put in a pattern, they will actually have a list underneath of all the flosses and everything that is needed for that pattern, and you can just click and say, and if they have everything in stock, it will all come with your pattern. That's wonderful. That is wonderful. For beaded kits, I don't think I have one here, but you can get a pack that is specific for that chart. Ooh, Ophelia has one. I don't know if I bought that one though. I don't remember. But you can get a bead pack basically that is specific to that chart, and everything that is needed bead-wise will be in that pack. Some of them are not that much money. They'll be like $13 because there might only be 5 packs of beads in there. Some of them might be, I mean, I bought one that was almost $40 and $48, I think, because it had a lot of treasures to it, and treasures are expensive. So I think it just depends, you kitting it up yourself and hoping that you can find all the beads, or just buying the bead pack, totally up to you. Okay, so that's how to kit up. I hope that makes sense. Speaking about beading, did I talk about this already? Beading, I bead at the end. And let me be honest, I have not finished anything enough to get to the beading. And so, but I don't bead as I go. I leave all the beading to the end. I do Mill Hill kits and I love beading. And so I don't have a problem with beading. But because I use Q-snaps for the most part for my Mirabilias, and I will use a smaller Q-snap than the actual stitched area, which means that I will, need to move the area, and some of my stitches are underneath that Q-snap. Well, I don't want beads under there, so I will bead at the end. I suppose if I used a big scroll frame that covered the whole entire area, that I wasn't afraid that I was going to crush any of my beads, then I might bead as I go, but at this time I don't. And so I wait until the end for beading. So I really don't have a whole lot of advice for beading other than the beading floss and the beading needle that I would use. Yeah. So beading after. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes. How about changing the Kreinik? So many, if you've followed me for any length of time, know that I absolutely despise Kreinik. I don't have luck with Kreinik. I know other people, I think that there is either you love Kreinik or you dislike Kreinik. I am heavily in the dislike Kreinik camp. I know that there's other stitchers who have had absolutely no problem. I have a problem. It splits every single time. It doesn't matter how small of a piece I use, how big of a piece, you know, it does not matter. Kreinik and I apparently don't like each other. And that's okay, because there's another option, and that's called petite treasure braid. And so I found years ago a conversion chart for Kreinik to petite treasure braid and Kreinik to DMC. And so in the case of Guardian Angel, I wanted to see what it was going to look like without the Kreinik and the beading. And so I made a conscious decision to do that one on a 20 count fabric versus 16, and not use Kreinik and not use beads. And so I went to that conversion chart, and whatever was called for in the Kreiniks, I found the DMC equivalent of, and that's what I used in its place. And I think that the chart, the finished piece turned out absolutely gorgeous, and I don't regret one bit not using Kreinik in it or petite treasure braid. So I will link that conversion chart below. And it might not be at the upload of the video, but I certainly will have it in the next couple of days. Did I talk about French knots versus beading? I think I did, yes. One other question I get, because I use Aida, is many of the patterns have either quarter or 3/4 stitches. And how do I deal with that? Because it's being used on Aida. I split my square. I split that little square into whatever I need it to be. And so in order to do that, I will take one of those pins, you know, with the glass ball or plastic ball tip that are used for sewing, quilting, that kind of thing, you know, to pin your stuff together. I will take one of those pins because their end is very, very sharp, and sharper than my needle, and to go through my hole. And I will use that to split my square, my fabric, for whatever I need it to be, whether it's the 3/4 stitch or the 1/4 stitch. If I have a pattern that calls for a lot of those 1/4 or 3/4 stitch areas, I will just keep that pin in my fabric so that it is always accessible. Why would a pattern need the 1/4 or 3/4 stitches or half stitches? It is for, you know, face, like shading of the face, shaping of the face, the fingers, maybe the swoop of a dress. You know, there's sometimes a reason why when you see the back stitching that it is going in, you know, a certain direction. It's the same with the face, you know, using the chin. Well, you can't make a pointed chin, you know, or a nicely rounded chin by whole stitches. And so that would be the reason why there would be partial stitches. And so that's what I do, working on Aida, and it works out just fantastic, because again, that pin has a very sharp end, and it's so easy to split the fabric that way. Okay, Caron water lilies. I want to just touch on that a little bit more. Caron water lilies. So they can be expensive, and some charts ask for quite a few Caron water lilies. And there may only be a very, very small portion of the Caron water lilies used. And so, and again, they can be, you know, they can be expensive. And like I think I mentioned, sometimes very hard to find, especially those popular colors in the newer charts. You know, they're gone right away. And so I am going to go to a website, the Caron Water Lily website, and I'm going to have a look at that color, and I'm going to pull out the main colors of that and look at the DMC. I have a book with the DMC colors on it, and I will look and I will pull out and see if that works and create a blend of 2 different DMC colors so that I can hopefully come up with something that is comparable to a Caron water lily. That's the way that I do it. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but again, I don't want to pay, you know, $6 for a Caron water lily for 1 chart that I'm never going to use again and needed, you know, maybe up to 50 stitches. Not really worth it to me, given the overall size of the pattern. So blend it is. The other thing that you could do too is there are, like, maybe in the place of Kreinik, you know how DMC came out with what's it called, you know, the sparkly floss. Hobby Lobby got rid of all of it, and of course I don't have any here at all to show you what I mean, but it's a little Hobby Lobby, like, clearance them for like 43 cents, and I went and bought darn close to everyone within 3 stores that they had, because I was like, you know, it just gives a little bit of sparkle. So in the case of, like, maybe if you're using a black Kreinik, right, and you're using that black Kreinik for that sparkle, that little bit of depth, well, I don't know why you couldn't use that black Etoile. Figured it out. You know, it's got a little bit of sparkle to it, and I think that it would add a little bit of something to the pattern too. So again, it's your pattern. So anyways, that's a whole other little tangent about Kreinik. Okay, I do get asked about OOP charts a lot and how I find OOP charts. So when I first started collecting Mirabilias, because I was collecting them long before I started stitching them, you know, so Nora, or the Mirabilia side of Nora Corbett's charts, because she does 2. She does Nora Corbett's and then she has the Mirabilias. There are 6 designs of Mirabilias that are released a year, and she has been designing for Mirabilia for 30 years now. So 6 times 30 is a lot of charts. And so after a while they will retire, and I don't know what the formula is to retire them, whether that's, you know, they're no longer popular, they're just not selling, they've been around for so long. You know, maybe it's supply and demand. Maybe it's because, you know, the treasures maybe, or something special that's in that chart is hard to come by now, and so they retire that chart. I really have no idea. Those are just some ideas that I think of, you know, when I think people retire things. And so, you know, what happens when you tell people they can't have something, they want it even more, right? I think we can all agree when somebody says, no, you can't have that piece of chocolate, I am going and I'm going to eat the whole dang bag, because you know what? You told me I could not do something. I had an obstetrician once who told me that I couldn't eat donuts. You know what I ate for 8 months of my pregnancy? Donuts. Yeah, don't tell me I can't have something. I'm pretty sure that a lot of us are like that. And so, here comes the secondary market, right? And the secondary market can explode with OOP charts and how much those charts are going to be. And some charts are reasonable, you know, and others explode. Like, I'm just thinking Lady of the Flag, or Queen of Freedom. Holy smokes, you know, I've seen those charts go for $500, and I don't understand it myself. A lot of places I will find an OOP chart is on eBay. there are a couple of Facebook destash, Mirabilia destash sites that you can go to. There are very generous people out there who will just gift a chart. You know, there are a lot of OOP charts, out of print charts, and they are beautiful, but you know, depending on how much you want that chart is how much you're willing to pay. Me, myself, because I have more charts than I am ever going to stitch in my whole entire lifetime, for me to pay, you know, upwards of $100 for a chart seems very, very silly, especially when I have to still kit it up. And some of those charts can be expensive to kit up, like I've talked about already. And so I'm not willing to pay that. Currently, I believe Mirabilias are what, $16.50 to buy in an LNS. You can get them on 1 2 3 Stitch sometimes for $14.50 or $12.50. I don't know. It's been a little while since I've looked. But they will be a little bit cheaper than they are in an LNS, but you're paying shipping. So I think that it kind of equals out. So if it's $16.50 in the store, you know, to me, paying double for an OOP chart, or maybe a little bit more than double for an OOP chart, I'm okay with, for the most part. And it depends on what kind of chart it is, and if I'm going to do it right away. If I'm just buying it to put it in my stash forever and it's never going to get stitched, it seems silly to pay for that myself, because I could then use that money for the beads on one that I'm currently working on, something like that. So I do get asked how I find OOP charts. Sometimes I will just do a call out, sometimes on my videos too, and say I am absolutely desperately looking for this chart. And I will get people who will be like, oh, I have one for sale, it's not that much money, or I would like to gift it to you, or I'd like to loan it to you. And so there are some very, very, very generous, wonderful people in the community, as we all know. And so they are not completely out of reach. You know, sometimes you can even find them in the thrift store, or they will go up like on a third-party site like OfferUp, or what's the other one? Craigslist. Is it Craigslist? And so you might be able to find some that way as well. Okay. I did get asked if Mirabilias are the same as Bella Filipinas. They are not. They're by two completely different designers, and they are both beautiful. I focus strictly on Mirabilias, especially for Mira May. But there are a lot of beautiful Bella Filipinas that I have seen, and I would like to do. And but I had to make a deal with myself that I needed to finish. I need to finish one of my big Mirabilias before I can go and buy a Bella. But they are really, really beautiful. So all right, did I get through all of the, now I do have a tip, and I was reminded about this tip not that long ago. I think week two, when I did the Snow Maiden, I was reminded that this is very, very important. For every Mirabilia chart that you are doing, I highly suggest going to the Mirabilia website and having a look at the chart corrections. Yeah, because there have been corrections to many of the charts, not every one of them, but for many of the charts. And it could be something very, very small. It could be that the symbols are switched for the colors. It could be that maybe the treasures are no longer available and they're giving you an alternate for that treasure or bead. And so I highly suggest going to the Mirabilia website. Now what I have done is I've gone through all of my patterns and I've put a sticky on every one of them that has a chart correction, so that I know when I go to you to stitch on that piece, that there's a chart correction, and either I put it on the sticky what it is, or I remind myself, because it's a little more involved, that I need to go to the website and have a look when I get to that point. All right, so I think that that is all for the questions that I have received. If I've missed any, please let me know just in comments below, or you can get a hold of me again through Instagram or my email, which is always in the show notes. So that's it. Oh my goodness, almost an hour of questions. See, I can blab a lot. Okay, so how about we go into some Mira May. I apologize for the noise of my chair, and I'm gonna go down here for just a second so I can pick up the first set of charts. Oh my word. Okay, so I opened all the bags as best I could. Yes, I did. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So I started Mira May back in 2020. Back in 2020, and I think that might have been the last year, but there was a group on Facebook called Stitch Mania, and every May there was suggestions on how to stitch for May, and everybody had an interpretation of how they did Stitch Mania. I think when it was started, I don't remember what year it was started, but whatever year it was, that many charts were, so say 2011, 11 charts you started in May. 2015, 15 charts were started in May, that kind of thing. But then other people did like a stitch, a new chart every day, you know, so they had 31 charts at the end of May that they had started. I think it was just really open to interpretation after a while, what people wanted to do. And so my interpretation in 2020 was I did a Mira May and a samplers month. And so what I would do is Monday through Friday, I would work on a Mirabilia. And then on Saturday, Sunday, I would do a sampler. And so that was kind of fun for the month of May. And as I was doing it, when I went into 2021, I liked doing the daily so much that I decided I wanted to see what my progress was from the very first stitch that I started on Monday to the very last stitch that I did on Friday evening for an upload on Saturday morning. And thus, my version of Mira May was kind of like pulled together from that. And so what I would do is every Monday in May, there were 5 Mondays in May, I would start a new kitted chart, and then I would do a vlog style and upload. And so as we go along, that's kind of what you're going to see. But for 2020, I didn't do that. I just incorporated it kind of into like my WIPs and made a new start on Mirabilias, and worked on those for the 5 days. But I did not do a vlog style every day to see progress. So the very first one that I started, May 4th to May 8th of 2020, was Archangel. Now this, I love this pattern so much. Now keep in mind, I started this 4 years ago and he is still not finished. So this was the very first one. I didn't know a whole lot about Mirabilias other than I knew I wanted to start stitching the plethora of Mirabilias that I had at the time. And now, like 4 years later, I have so many more Mirabilias, but at the time I thought maybe I had 15 charts or something, and I thought, man, that's a lot. Whew. I have way more now. All right, let's see. So, and I didn't know, like what I did was I went into my stash and I tried to find a piece of fabric that was very similar to this, because it did not have an alternate 16 count fabric. It had two 32 count fabric choices. One being tumbleweed linen by Witchelt, or Belfast driftwood linen by Zweigart. Well, I didn't have either one of those because I don't stitch linen. And so I went into my stash of fabrics at the time. And at the time, I used to be a part of Fabrics by LJ. And he had the most beautiful, now I'm looking for my board. He had the most beautiful fabrics that I purchased. And I started off with his 14s, then went to 16s, then got into 18s. And I couldn't find anything in my 16 count that had the color that I was looking for. So I went to the 18, not thinking about the beads or anything like that. And, but I think it's still gonna work out. So this is an 18 count fabric. Oh, I don't even have all of him in there. Look at that. 18 count fabric, and it is color, I thought I brought it out. I did. It is Eau Gray, 18 count. And this is a 17 by 24 piece of fabric. And I think that the colors on him look absolutely lovely. Do a little close up. I just think that, you know, the goldy browns and oranges and everything kind of highlight. Well, maybe if I put, that was the back, you guys. Good night, nurse. There we go. That looks so much. And the really sad thing is, I'm wearing my readers. You would think that I should be able to see that. I didn't. Okay, well that looks so much prettier, doesn't it? Yeah. Anyways, that is what I've gotten done in 4 years. Is that not shameful? It's shameful. He needs to come on out. Maybe he'll come back out for Mira Monday stitching on for June. Goodness sakes. So anyways, this was the very first one that I started. Now, oh, I don't know if you noticed, I started stitching the Kreinik in there. I have since learned, okay, another tip. I have since learned about Kreinik. Kreinik is rough, right? It's a coarser type of thread. And if you have not stitched everything around the Kreinik already, stitching your DMC next to that Kreinik, frays the DMC, at least again for me. Maybe it's me, I'm the problem. So I started putting in the Kreinik. The Kreinik fits fantastic in here. That amount of Kreinik was so painful. Oh my gosh, it was so painful. Oh, I can't even. So, and this was back in the day when patterns were $12. I got him from my LNS. He was $12. That was a lot of years ago. He's MD81. If you are interested, he is still available too. So I think he is absolutely gorgeous. So he's the very first one that I started with. Then, okay, I unzipped. I should not zip back up. Then the next one I worked on from May 11th to the 15th of 2020 was Ella. And I did that specifically because my granddaughter's name is Ella. And back in 2020, she loved this pattern, you guys. She loved her. Could not wait. She thought that I would have it stitched by the next day. She was like, Grammy, when am I getting this? And I was like, oh, honey, it is not going to be forever. She is now 12, and she doesn't love it. as much as she did 4 years ago. All right, let me see what fabric am I using this one on? Oh, well, I may not have all of the fabrics names. I may not. But if I can find them, I will put them in the show notes below. But this is Ella. Oh, you know, I sort of lied. I think I said that I think I said that there were very few that I ever got like skin in. And look, she's got a face. It's not a pretty face because she's not backstitched, but there's a face. Let's see, do I have this the right way? Oh my goodness. So this is a 16 count. I want to say that this is a Be Stitch Me piece, but let's not quote me on that. And again, I will put these down below because somewhere in my social media, someplace, I have actually put what all of these are. Is it on there? No. Okay. So that is Ella. She's come out, you know, several times for Mira Monday stitching. I love her. I think she's pretty, and possibly by the time that I get her done, because again, shameful, it's been 4 years, and that's how much she's gotten done. I should have her, I'm looking to see if I at all have the floss or the fabric. No, weird. Okay, well, I'll find it. So that was Ella. Then on May 18th, and I only worked on her for 1 day because Anne Boleyn's birthday, or beheading, was on May 19th. And because I was doing samplers and I had a different, you know, way that I was doing Stitch Mania back in 2020, I just pulled out Alice for the 1 day and then worked on Anne Boleyn for the rest of the week in honor of her beheading birth date. And so Alice is, let's see if I have its, oh, this is a piece of mystery fabric that I believe I got, oh, let me show you Alice first. Oh my gosh, not new, Lisa. So this is Alice, and she is just absolutely gorgeous. And she is done on a piece of mystery color Ada that I got from Fabric Grab Bag. A long time ago. And like I said, you know, I don't really color outside the lines very much in fabric choice, but the picture had kind of a purpley color for Alice, so I was like, oh, all right, well, I have this purple and I'm never going to use it for anything else, so why not? Now this one has gotten quite a bit of love recently because this one was pulled out for May Mira Monday stitching. So on Mondays I pull out existing WIP, and I put on Mondays I work on whatever Mirabilia for that month. And so she's gotten some love, and so really super happy with the progress. And yes, you get to see it here now because I don't know that I've done any update video or pictures on Instagram of how far I've gotten, but I'm pretty pleased with that progress. It's gone really nicely. Now Alice has quite a few blends in her, but they're so easy and they're so pretty. They're so pretty. And if you ever wonder, you know, does blends actually make a difference? They do. They really do. I didn't think they did at first because the blend in the particular area that I'm working in is a blend of the two colors already in that area, and I'm like, oh, how different is this gonna look? It does. It really enhances the stitch a lot. Okay, and then the third one, or the fourth one that I worked on and I cannot for the life of me find it. I have no idea. I'm panicking a little. Is Enchanted Mermaid. She's gorgeous. She's absolutely beautiful. She's not been brought out for quite some time either, but I can't find her. She's probably still packed somewhere, which would be really weird, but I can't find her. All right. So then 2021 happened, and this is where I started my version of Miramania, or yep, it was called Miramania at the time. And this is where I started the vlog style, started a new Mirabilia on Mondays, worked on her every evening, did a vlog style video the morning after and what progress I had made the evening before, and then on Saturday mornings would upload that whole week of stitching, and then you got, you know, kind of what it looked like in the very beginning to the very end, and my thoughts and all those things. So what I do now for Miramania or Miramay is what I started in 2021. So for week 1 in 2021, I started red. Oh, red is just absolutely stunning. I love red. Now red, I actually have red completely kitted up with everything. I am working on a Color and Cotton Colonnade 16 count. And this, I belong to their Fabric of the Month Club for a really long time. And let me show you. And she has seen some love on Mira Monday Stitching. Goodness, I have to get these out right. All right, and this one is one that I did a bottom start to. So she is a bottom start. And she's just on a nice neutral fabric, really pretty. And yes, I have brought her out numerous times and put some stitch love in her, and I love working on her. Absolutely love working on her. She needs to come back out too. And she was back in the day when I used to bobbinate. And funny story about this is that when I first met Mr. G, so this is over 7 years ago, I was sitting on the bed bobbinating these probably 6 years ago maybe, bobbinating all of these up with the intent on starting it, and I still didn't do it for a couple of years. It's crazy, isn't it? All right, let me bring all of these ones up so you don't have to see the top of my head every time. All right, what is the next one? The next one was Fairy Flora. Fairy Flora, she's a beauty. Fairy Flora. Oh, she is stunning. And she is still available. And she was put out in 1994. She is MD7. I am doing her on a Touch of Gray Ada 16 count. It looks like I have her completely kitted up as well, and she is a mixture of old bobbinated and the way I currently do all of my flosses on floss drops. So super pretty. All right, let's have a look at her. Now this is some stiff Ada, and which is fine. Let's see, how does she go? Just gotta go this way. Yes. Oh my word. Yep, this is gonna be a long video. So I did a bottom start to her as well, and working my way up. Yes. Yes, that has to be, because that would be the bottom. And then I have all this fabric. She's a big, tall piece of fabric. And So she has seen some love. She's very easy. There's a lot of blocks of color to her. So she's easy to stitch. I love her. You know what's going to happen? I'm going to say the same things in every single one of these videos. Ooh, I love this one. I should bring this one out again. Ooh, I love this one. Can we all say that? So that was week 2 of 2021. Then Millennium Angel. Oh, also a beauty. So this is MD 27. I believe she's still available as well. 1997 was when it was released. I'm so sorry for the glare. There we go. Better. Okay, and she is stitched on a piece of Rain Witchelt Ada. And this is a much softer piece of fabric. Oh, I have magnet in there. Okay, I opened all the bags. I didn't prepare for getting all the fabric done. And this one also started as a bottom stitch. I've gotten a lot done. I have a hand. There's a hand. I should get her out too. Man alive. There's a lot of white stitching in this one. Oh my goodness, there's a lot of white stitching. There's a lot that's coming up here. White stitching. Maybe I don't want to bring her out just yet. I have this thing for white. I do a lot of white. There's a lot of white stitching in many of the patterns. And I mean, you just can't get away from white. It's very pretty, but it can be very monotonous after a while too. You're like, oh, can there be some color? I whine a lot. Okay, so that is Millennium Angel. Then Ophelia. She was she's a fairly newer pattern. And let's see here. Do I have what I'm stitching her on? I don't. Put it in there. This is Ophelia. So she is, let's see here. She is MD 175 and she was released in 2021. She is also really, really pretty. And I started up in the corner. So in some patterns I will do a middle start, some I will do up in a corner, some I will do, it just depends on kind of how I feel. Also, what I've kitted up, right? So if I've kitted up all the DMCs, I can pretty much start anywhere. It just depends. You know, some borders are Kreinig borders. Some borders are Caron water lilies, and I might not have those. But in this particular instance, I did have the flosses needed and got her started. So I don't remember what Ada I am using, but it is super stiff, and I'm guessing it's like a khaki. I'm guessing it's some sort of khaki. But I will, when I find it, I will put it down in the, oops, did I lose a floss? I sure did. I will put it in the box below. You know what I mean. All right, and then week 5 was Shimmering Mermaid. Oh, goodness, she's pretty. This is pretty. Now, I like a 3-inch border, and this one, the fabric that I had, I wasn't able to get a 3-inch border, and I think if I do this whole, if I do the border on this one, it gave me like an 1.5-inch border, I think. I'm really tight on my margins, but I think it's okay. I think it's okay, and I do have a framer who is a framer extraordinaire, and she doesn't need that much space. But what I am using is it says it's an 18 count. Oh, I'm doing this in an 18 count. That's weird. Oyster Shell by Color and Cotton. I've not brought this one out for a while. I do know that I did do some stitching on her for Mira Monday stitching, I believe. She also is a bottom starter. I must have really liked doing bottoms for this year. Is she not beautiful? Oh my gosh, look at all this white. And then all of these spaces in here, I believe, are beads. I believe. There's a lot. It's gonna be a lot. She's a pretty bead heavy chart, I think. I could be wrong. There's also 5 Krynics in this, so, and none of the beads are more than one package, so, but this is really, really pretty. It looks gorgeous on this fabric. And this is a stiffer coloring cotton, like a more rougher coloring cotton fabric, but it goes in the Q-snap nicely and tightens nicely and everything's all good. So, all right, so that was the end of 2021. So those 5 charts. Now, 2022. Let me pull those ones up. Okay, that's 2022. So sorry for the noise of my chair. Okay, so 2022 started Santa. Now, Santa is number 120 and was released in 2012. And Santa is a full coverage pattern. There is nothing on him that is not stitched. And there's only one blend in here, which is lovely. And there are 4 or 5 packages of Mill Hills that are required. And some of the colors require 2 or 3 skeins. You know, mostly the whites, the green, the reds. And what color is that? Red. So that's what he looks like. Now this is, oh, this is the stiffest piece of Aida. So I'm guessing that it is a piece, well, let's see if it's got a, oh, it does. This is a French lace Aida, 16 count. I started him up in the corner, and he has not been out since. I don't even know if I worked on this for any Mira Monday month. I don't think I have. I think that that's the 5 days of stitching that I got done on him. I could be wrong. I've been known to be wrong a lot. But yeah, this is a horrifically stiff piece of Aida, and I do not love the stiffness, because, you know, when you start using hand-dyed or dyed fabrics and how soft they are, it's very hard to go back to a stiff Aida. And there's ways to make it, so sorry, to make it not as stiff. And if you work in hand, you know, just naturally the warmth of your hand will start taking away the starch that's in that fabric. I don't work in hand for these patterns though. I use a Q-snap, so. All right, the next one I did was Starlet. Oh, I loved Starlet too. Oh, Starlet is so pretty. So she is MD 172 and she was released in 2020. Oh, she's so pretty. She's got the nicest, biggest blocks of color to use. Now let's see. I'm looking, maybe it's on there. I don't know what color of fabric I am using, but it is another stiff piece. And it looks like I started her as a middle start. Ooh. I don't know how people professionally do these, make their videos look so lovely. She's a middle start, and that's where I got to. She also really needs to come out. looks like there's going to be a lot of monthly Mira Monday stitching on some of these older pieces that I've started. I don't know why I've not brought her out. And again, if I can find what fabric I was using, it's not even in there. I will put that in the show notes below. But Starlet, so that was what, week 2 of 2022? Yes. Then I did Angel Proclamation. And this was gifted to me. Oh, the sun is coming in on a weird angle now. This was a pattern that was gifted to me, and I just, oh, those little angels are just so cute. And there is a Christmas one of this type with the angels, and I believe that that is the one that is retired. So it's an OOP. It can be found. But I just thought that this was so cute. Like, look, there's up here, that's ribbon. That is ribbon. Super cute. All right, what am I doing this one on? Oh, this one I am doing on, let's see. Am I doing it on this one? Ooh, there's no stitching on that. Maybe it's on this? Yes, it is. Okay, so I am using a piece of, ooh, and this one's long. Okay, I think that this is the top or the bottom? Oh my goodness. I think that this is the top right here. Okay, so I am doing this, and this is a long piece of fabric. Oh my word. Oh wow, okay. So that, there we go. That is how much I got done. And this is not being brought out either. So, and this is being stitched on a piece of Weathered Stone by Atomic Ranch. Atomic Ranch Weathered Stone. Super pretty. Yep. There's some really nice modeling in this fabric. And this is lovely fabric to work on. It is soft, it's pliable. Oh, I love everything about this fabric so much. So this is a very long piece of fabric because you know, it goes lengthwise this way, and it's gonna be a biggie. All right, so that was Angel Proclamation. You know, looking in these bags and seeing like, oh, I have my highlighter in there and the working copy and some beads and some not beads. It's funny. Then for week 4, I did Red Lady Pirate. Oh, I adore her so much. Oh, she's gotta come out. She's gotta come out. And this one I am doing on another, I am doing this on a sunflower printed fabric, which I believe is Rogue Wholesale Fabrics. When I saw this piece at my L&S, which at the time was Thread Needle Street, and I think most of you know how much I love Thread Needle Street. When I saw this fabric, I was like, immediately I knew Red Lady Pirate was gonna have to go on her. So, oh, well, hopefully that sun will move. This is what I've gotten done on her. Now, she has come out several times for Monday stitching. And again, she's got gorgeous blocks of color, lots of blocks of color. So it's a very easy stitch to do. I love this. And unfortunately, we're not going to be able to see this fabric, but oh, that's too bad. It's in my playlist. And all of these videos for the week, with the exception of 2020 because I wasn't doing vlog style videos, but all of these from 2021 on are all in a playlist, a Mirabilia playlist. And then for week 5, I thought I would pull out a free chart and show, you know, that you don't have to buy a pattern. The designer, Nora, has graciously designed several free charts for stitchers to do, and for the most part they are not super expensive to kit up. Hopefully you have like the DMC floss and all of that, and so I chose for 2022 Guardian Cherub. And this was framed for me at Craft Gallery, and it has museum glass on it. That's why we're not seeing a horrible glare. Is that not beautiful? And yep, it was framed for me in Findlay, Ohio by Paula at Craft Gallery, and she did a beautiful job. I love this. I love the frame. I love everything about it. And this is one that I thought, oh, I would do on a 20 count Aida to show that you don't need to stitch everything on a 16 or a 32 count. You can change it, you know, again, depending on what, if you're going to do beads, because, you know, the beads, normal size beads, are not going to look right on a 20 count. Yeah. So, and the free charts are very much available on the Mirabilia website, and I will link that below. I actually was working off of a cardstock copy that my LNS had back in the day, a whole load of Mirabilia charts. And Denise said to me once, have you ever stitched on any of the charts that you've already bought? And I said, no, because I'm afraid of the beading and I'm afraid of blah, blah, blah. And she said, well, why don't you start with these and see if you like doing it before you continue purchasing more charts. I mean, what a great shop owner, right? And so she led me over to the freebie basket, and in there were several different designers that had free charts, but there was a stack of Mirabilia free patterns, and they were all different, and I probably picked up like 6 of them maybe, and with the intent of one day getting those done. All right, then we headed into this year, 2023, and so if you have, you know, watched my current videos, you have probably seen all of these. But for week 1, I picked out Lady Mirabilia, and I thought that she's been in my stash for quite some time too. And this one is a special one because she is a 25th anniversary, and she has a butterfly that is included in the chart, in the pattern, in this. And so this is one of very few charts that you will see that there is seals on, as well as the seal in the back. And at first I was like, oh, I can just peel this seal down and it will be fine. No, no, mess that up good. But I am doing this on, ooh, I even have some thread ready for her. What am I doing this on? I don't remember. Good for me. Don't remember. But anyways, I think I started this in the middle. There we go. And that is what I've gotten done so far. This is again another kind of stiff-ish piece of Aida, but it's okay because again it goes into the Q-snap and it does tighten up really nicely. So but that is Mirabilia. Did I put her, I don't know where her tag is. It's just weird. And you would think, you know, I just finished Mirabilia 2023, and you would think that I would know what I stitched. I don't. All right, week 2 was the Snow Maiden. And the Snow Maiden is a fairly newish pattern. This is MD179, and she was released in 2021. And she is so pretty. She's so pretty. And I am doing her on a, again, mystery count. Nope, mystery color. Ada. And this one also was a middle start. Pretty sure I have her going the right way. Pretty sure. So she also was a middle start. That's what I got done. Her colors are gorgeous. The picture does absolutely no justice whatsoever. When I did the floss, you know, kitted it up with the floss for this, and I kept looking at the flosses and I'm like, how? But they're gorgeous. The other thing I'm going to say about Mirabilia's is there's a lot of colors, and when you're stitching with some of these colors and you look and you're like, there's no way, there's just no way, this isn't going to look right. Trust the process. It looks right. In the end, it looks right, and it's beautiful after you look to see if there was any corrections in the correction area. Okay, the next one, I'm going to put a picture in here. And this one is Mia Mermaid, which is the freebie that I mentioned on the website. And again, I will link that website down below. Oh, see, the sun is starting to move. And this is done on a very random piece of Ada that I got in some D-stash a long time ago. And unfortunately, the color is just not picking up, but I decided to do her on a 14 count. I've had this fabric in my stash forever, and because I don't work on 18 count or 14 count anymore, it was really funny working on this because the stitches seem so big to me. Because now, with the exception of my Miras that I do on 16 count, I am an 18 or 20 count kind of girl. And so going back to a 14 count, which is not hard, but it like the stitches look so big to me. Now this one had a couple of water lilies, and let me show you. So the water lilies were in the hair. This is the color of the water lilies for the hair. And then this is one of the water lilies for the tail. And so you see, let's see if I can get it forward. So do you see how there's different, oh, for goodness sakes, different colors? You see that there's this really bright green and a couple of blues, and there we go. And a very, almost like a periwinkle purple, and that in there, periwinkle blue, I guess it is. You know, if it didn't need that many colors, I would have found some sort of this color blue and this color green tealy blue to go and put in as a blend. So that's what I mean when I say a blend. You go and you look online at the colors and pick something out of that. And even though there are, you know, probably 3, maybe even 4. Yeah, because there's even a deeper jewelry tone green in here. So, you know, I would just pick out a couple of the colors, and if you didn't want to buy the water lily. So anyways, this was a free pattern and called Mia Mermaid, and that was week 3 stitching. And then let's put her over here, and then week 4, oh, Stone Roses. Stone Roses, she's so pretty. Now this was a 1995 release, and her number is MD17. I picked this up at my LNS too, and she's current. You can still find her. And this was at the, there was a rate increase before this last one. So these charts were $15.50, and I think now she's selling them for either $16 or $16.50. I don't remember, but I got it when it was at the $15 mark. And this one I am doing on a piece of Fabrics by LJ, and if you ever bought any of his stuff, they always came in Ziploc baggies, and then it said Fabrics by LJ on it, and then, you know, he hand wrote everything that was on here. So this color is Lunar. This is a big piece of fabric, and I believe, oh, whoops, okay, that needle went somewhere. I'm gonna have to find it before Odin gets on in here. I have a lot of border to this one. Oh, huh. A lot of border to this one. And I think that she goes that way. So there we go. Look at all that white. Look at all that white. There's a lot of white. Oh, there was one. There we go. So that's what I got done on her. Now I did her also on a middle start. And this is a very big piece of fabric, but I just loved the fabric for this. And so there's going to be a lot of border. And I did look to see, you know, can I you know, cut it down and have some fabric left over. There was not going to be enough fabric to do another Mirabilia or even a Nora on. It would have been smalls, and honestly I have so much fabric. I know it's a horrible thing to have. I have so much fabric that I couldn't do the math, and I was not totally interested in doing the math. Plus I've had this fabric in my stash for a good 5 years easily. So well, I found the magnet. Oh goodness. Okay. And then the last one. This is an OOP chart, and this was the Kiss. Oh, I coveted this one when I saw it. I had not seen it because, you know, it was OOP by the time I think by the time I even really paid attention to charts. And this is one that I would have passed by a long time ago. But like I explained in week 5 for this one, this pattern kind of embodies Mr. G's and my relationship. And so I had to buy it, and I found it on the secondary market and I purchased it, but it hadn't come, and I forgot to put it in my X-Stitch app that I had bought it and that it was coming, so that I wouldn't buy it again. Because when I go to buy charts, I try to look at my X-Stitch app first and see if I've already purchased it. And if I haven't, then I know I can go ahead. Well, because I forgot to put it in there that it was a pending purchase, I saw it at my LNS. She had a copy left, and so I got super excited and I bought it again. This happens. Okay, now this one is a mostly full coverage chart, with the exception of this area down here and this area down here, which is fabric. The fabric color coming through, and then of course outside the border is the fabric color. And I'm not really a pinky girl, so when I saw this fabric in my stash, and I've had this for a long time too, Bellini by Color and Cotton. I've not been part of the Color and Cotton Club for a very long time, but this fabric just said, you will 100% work for me. And so that's what I got done in the 5 days of week 5 of the Kiss. And it was exciting because I got into The gentleman's hair, Mr. G is bald, and so it's funny to put hair in on a piece that, you know, embodies the two of us, because my man, he is bald. So anyways, so those are all of the charts that I have done for Mira May and the progress that has been done on them. And I just thought that maybe you would enjoy seeing, you know, kind of that start of Mira May, and what was done. And so a lot of these will come out for Mira Monday stitching. And like I said, I now do you know, one of them I'll pull it out as a WIP, and I will work on it for the month of Mondays, and then I will retire it. We'll go into the WIP Corral, and a new one will come out, just so that stitches are put onto every single one of them. And now looking back, I know that Santa has never been worked on since I started it back in 2022. Starlet hasn't come back out, I don't believe. Angel Proclamation never came out. I don't think I did anything on Ophelia for quite some time. And if I could find Enchanted Mermaid, I don't think that I've worked on Enchanted Mermaid for a while either. So there's quite a few that I could pick out and actually do. And out of all of these Miras that were done, the only one that's ever gotten finished was the Guardian Cherub. I do think that Mia Mermaid will probably get done quite quickly, because I do have everything for her, and I think she'll be done quite quickly. She's a fairly easy. She seems to be a fast stitch. And of course, none of them I don't have anywhere as close to like being a finish, and so that needs to be remedied. I would love to have some of these done and framed and up on the wall, and that are mine. And so anyways, I hope that you enjoyed. And like I said, if you have any questions that you know I didn't cover, please feel free in the comment section below, ask, and I will try to respond, or email me privately, or DM me privately through Instagram, and I will try to get those things answered. And yeah, and then I'm looking forward to next year. I have a bunch of new patterns that I have purchased. I have gotten a couple of OOPs that I've purchased. I have a lot still kitted up. I have a lot of Mirabilias, and I could stitch Mirabilias probably for the next 10 years of Mira May and still not cover them all. That would be 50 charts. Oh my gosh, do I have 50 charts in it? We're not going to talk about it. All right, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for joining me. I just enjoy interacting with all of you, and being part of the Mirabilia community. And yeah, so I should be back hopefully this week sometime with an actual update video on my regular stitching, not just my specialty area stitching. And I have some progress in some charts, so, and then retreat information to talk about, and I had all kinds of stuff and just need to get it done. So until we meet again, hugs and stitches.